So I want to tell you just a quick story on how I got into audiobooks so much. I was driving truck. I drove for Big Brown, and I did that for almost 10 years. But my first couple years in, I listened to a lot of talk radio. And talk radio is great. I'm not saying anything bad about it. But, I used to work nights. And so driving at night, I'd listen to a program called After Dark. And then I listened to a program with Art Bell. And it was weird stuff. He interviewed vampires and interviewed Bigfoots. And I mean, he had all sorts of stuff. But it did well because it kept you awake at night, as you're driving. Because there's not much happening on the interstate from here to Salt Lake in the middle of the night. Not much at all. So I kind of got into it a little bit. But then I'm like, man, is this making me better at all by listening to somebody interview a so-called vampire, right? It's not adding anything to me at all, even though it was kind of fun to talk with my buddies. And so I went to the library and I checked out my first book on tape. And at that time, my truck had a tape player. And so I plugged it in and man, I flipping loved it. And then my wife started getting audio stuff because she was getting her bachelor's degree at the time. So I started listening to some of the books she was reading, which like Plato's Republic and I don't know, there's a couple other ones and they were really good. I'm like, man, I learned a lot. And so then she was giving me books that she was reading for her classes. And then we talk about those different books. And then I started checking everything out at the library. Anything Anthony Robbins, anything Zig Ziglar, anything, all the sales greats. Anthony, I can't remember some of the names. But anyways, I started listening to all that stuff. And it really started to change my mindset. And then I ran into that book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I'm sure you've read multiple times. And that got me on to thinking, what about real estate? Maybe I could do real estate. And that in turn got me into buying a first couple pieces of real estate, which in turn got me into an education program, which got me to a point where I could quit my job 2 years after. And I've been a full-time investor ever since.